Jiang Ming, an S-class alpha, only engages with betas. To draw closer to him, I resorted to pharmaceuticals, disguising myself as a beta. The society presumed he was merely indulging in fleeting amusements. Yet, in the end, he not only anchored his heart to mine but also took me as his wife. When friends inquired, he scoffed, stating, I could never entertain an omega, those delicate beings who merely entice with pheromones. Jiang Ming harbored a profound disdain for omegas, so intense that even when faced with a destined mate whose pheromones harmonized perfectly with his own, he could effortlessly plunge a knife into their gland without a moment's hesitation. Before he uncovered my true omega identity, I had already left behind a divorce agreement and fled into the night. When Jiang Ming located me, my nape, having been suppressed by medication for an extended period, erupted with a subtle warmth, and pheromones surged uncontrollably outward. Yet, I felt a sense of relief. Compared to the predatory alphas, the loathsome Jiang Ming was the lesser evil. However, what was the cause of the excitement reflected in his flushed eyes? Upon receiving a message from Jiang Ming while I was still working late, I found 2 succinct words. Where are you? I replied truthfully, at the office. He then sent an address. Come over immediately. His voice, laced with electricity, unmistakably conveyed his irritation. Reluctantly, I saved my unfinished documents and shut down my computer. Before departing, I hesitated momentarily before retrieving a syringe from the depths of my briefcase, injecting it into the gland at the back of my neck without a second thought. The small area, slightly heated, was abruptly doused with the cold liquid, causing discomfort that left me unable to straighten my back for several minutes. Years of frequent medication had rendered my body resistant, while the excessively suppressed glands protested with increasing fervor. I had no choice but to escalate the dosage. The address Jiang Ming provided led me to a bar in the city center. Upon locating his private room, I could already detect the cloyingly sweet pheromones of an omega seeping through the door. I did not rush to enter but instead lit a cigarette, allowing the nicotine to mingle with my still labored breaths as it filled my lungs, igniting a wave of fiery pain. Faintly, I could hear voices from within. Brother Ming, your pheromones are quite fond of me. Brother Ming, bite down. Make me your omega. 2. Lost in the reverberations of whispered secrets, I was abruptly roused by a pair of hands that swiftly snatched the nearly extinguished cigarette from my lips. Turning my head, I was met with a face beaming with mirth. It was Su Tingyan, Jiang Ming's childhood friend and, paradoxically, his staunch rival. His tone was relatively gentle, yet an unsettling sense of malice lingered in the air. Aren't you going in? Are you so unperturbed by Jiang Ming? After coming of age, the Jiang family commenced their relentless search for a suitable omega for Jiang Ming to marry. In a moment of desperation, Jiang Ming and I secretly obtained a marriage certificate, which momentarily quelled the family's pressure. However, a few months ago, due to prolonged abstinence from omega interactions, Jiang Ming was diagnosed with pheromone disorder syndrome, a condition that could either be trivial, requiring merely the marking of an omega to remedy, or severe enough to drive one to madness if left unchecked. The higher the alpha's rank, the more dire the consequences became, with the risk of catastrophic bodily failure looming large. Yet, despite the relentless stream of omega candidates sent by the Jiang family, none could breach Jiang Ming's defenses. Eugene, how about a wager? Su Tingyan inquired, a sly smile gracing his lips. I furrowed my brow in intrigue. What shall we wager upon? He chuckled, simply whether Jiang Ming can emerge unscathed this time. Boring, I retorted, but Su Tingyan shook his head in disapproval. This time is different. Are you familiar with the concept of a destined partner? 3. In this world, the pheromone compatibility of each alpha and omega varies significantly. Yet, there exists but one perfect match among billions, a destined partner. The odds of encountering such a singular connection are akin to scaling the highest peaks. However, once met, the irresistible allure of pheromones between destined partners is utterly inescapable. Su Tingyan stood as a testament to this phenomenon. Despite being married, he fortuitously encountered his destined partner, leading to a scandalous abandonment of his family in pursuit of this connection. Clenching my fists, I advanced towards the door, only to be halted by Su Tingyan's grip on my wrist. What is this? Have you conceded? I glared at his bony hand encircling my wrist, unable to mask my disdain. Let go. Before he could respond, a cacophonous crash resonated from within the room, followed by pained cries. The door swung open to reveal Jiang Ming, leaning against the wall, his crimson eyes laced with bloodshot veins, his wrinkled shirt undone, beads of sweat cascading down his pale chest, an unusually disheveled sight. He regarded me with a soft click of his tongue. Why the delay? I allowed him to lean against me, whispering an explanation. Traffic was heavy. In a moment of silent defiance, I cast a provocative glance at Su Tingyan, silently declaring, "You've lost." Su Tingyan's expression darkened, urgency overtaking him as he dashed into the room, igniting my curiosity regarding his connection with the Omega inside. I settled Jiang Ming into the back seat of the car. Just as I attempted to close the door, he yanked me inside, wrapping his arms around me, and whispered in my ear, "Don't move. Let me hold you for a moment." The Omega from earlier was truly repulsive. "You're far better than any of them." Bowing my head, I endeavored to ignore the crisp scent of azaleas that enveloped him. As a beta, I remained impervious to pheromones, my mind swirling with a tumult of emotions. Was I to feel joy or sorrow? Jiang Ming's aversion to omegas was unwavering, even towards his destined partner whose pheromones harmonized perfectly with his own. "Jiang Ming, why do you despise omegas so?" I blurted out, startling myself with the revelation of my thoughts. Our relationship had never ventured into the realm of heartfelt confessions. Jiang Ming had courted many betas, and I was merely fortunate to find myself in the right place at the right time, a convenient pawn in the Jiang family's relentless matchmaking efforts. Perhaps the alcohol had dulled his senses, as he buried his face in my neck, inhaling deeply. Soon, I found myself distracted by his inquiry, "What scent are you wearing?" The potent allure of his high-ranking pheromones overwhelmed me, and despite having recently taken precautions, a hint of my own pheromones inevitably leaked through. I hurriedly explained, "I applied perfume." He accepted my explanation without suspicion, as I habitually chose fragrances that closely mirrored my own pheromones to avoid detection. 5. Upon returning home, Jiang Ming expressed his disdain for the lingering scent of omega that clung to him. Even in his drunken stupor, he insisted on showering. Thus, I dutifully attended to his needs. The next morning, when the alarm rang, a throbbing headache threatened to split my skull. I prepared breakfast and even brewed a restorative soup for Jiang Ming. When everything was finally on the table, he descended from upstairs at a leisurely pace. He embraced me from behind, his eyes barely open, pressing soft kisses onto my hair. "Why are you up so early? It's not the weekend." After a moment's hesitation, I replied honestly, "Director Jiang asked us to return to the ancestral home." "Not going." Jiang Ming's tone turned frosty, and the atmosphere around us chilled considerably. It was evident why the old man summoned us. 6. Jiang Ming had always been uncontrollable, managing to infuriate the old man time and again without consequence. Now, with my presence complicating matters, the elder had a convenient outlet for his frustrations. My phone was inundated with calls from those who hadn't seen Jiang Ming. Bound by the fact that the old man was both my employer and father-in-law, I had no choice but to answer. Reluctantly, I sought to appease Jiang Ming. Entering the bedroom, I found him lying on the bed, eyes closed in repose. Summoning my courage, I leaned down and pressed my lips against his. Almost instantaneously, his eyes flew open. He neither resisted nor moved, allowing me to fluster and blush in his presence. Eventually, he scoffed lightly, dismissing me with a cold, "No tricks will work on me. If you wish to leave, do so." However, the sudden surge of alpha pheromones emanating from him betrayed his indifference. Despite his reputation for being unpredictable and difficult to engage, he was surprisingly easy to placate. Ignoring his verbal protests, I focused on the intoxicating scent of his pheromones. It was this very strategy that had initially won Jiang Ming's affections. At first, I gifted him chocolates and lollipops which he dismissed as cheap, yet the alluring aroma of azaleas he exuded contradicted his words. Later, when I attempted to hold his hand, he would jerk away, and had it not been for the overwhelming scent of his pheromones, I might have thought he was uninterested. Eventually, when I kissed him, it became evident that he believed me to be a beta, oblivious to the effects of his pheromones, which he had no reason to temper. 7. As the sun descended beyond the horizon, Jiang Ming finally drove me back to the ancestral home. I leaned against my crumbling waist, lamenting my plight. The current Jiang Ming could no longer be appeased with a mere kiss. Furthermore, I could not assuage him with pheromones. He was always fierce in that regard. His favorite pastime was to present the glands at the nape of his neck before me, incessantly inquiring, "Do you smell it? What does it smell like?" Since the moment I met Jiang Ming, I had been perpetually enveloped in the exquisite and refreshing fragrance of azalea that exuded a remarkable presence. Yet I could only respond, "I don't smell anything, I don't know." Jiang Ming would appear to be incensed, growing even more ferocious. I simply could not fathom what had riled him so. To my surprise, there were still guests at the old residence so late in the evening. In the brightly lit living room, Su Tingyan sat cross-legged on the sofa, adorned with gold-rimmed spectacles, engrossed in the documents in his hands. Beside him was a petite young man, dressed in a white suit embellished with diamond buttons, exquisitely attired. However, a bandage wrapped around his left hand seemed somewhat out of place. Surely, this individual must be the fated match for Jiang Ming, perfectly attuned to his pheromones. Upon seeing this, Jiang Ming's expression darkened abruptly, and he began to berate Su Tingyan. Who the hell let this beast in? Old Master Jiang approached with his cane, scolding, unfilial son, how dare you speak like that? Jiang Ming stood tall and straight, refusing to heed his words, and directly confronted Su Tingyan. Ultimately, the confrontation ended with Old Master Jiang summoning several bodyguards to restrain Jiang Ming and escort him upstairs. Old Master Jiang then sat down, his expression laden with concern. It turned out that Jiang Ming and Su Tingyan had been inseparable, but their relationship had soured due to a betrayal during a collaboration between their companies, where Su Tingyan had conspired with others to undermine Jiang Ming. Jiang Ming detested deception and betrayal above all else. The situation had been orchestrated by Su Tingyan, leading to a complete severance of ties between their firms, which Old Master Jiang did not oppose. However, circumstances had changed. Su Tingyan's brother, Su Ruyan, had just returned from abroad and was Jiang Ming's destined counterpart, someone who could cure Jiang Ming's affliction and save his life. Old Master Jiang adjusted his tone, addressing Su Tingyan courteously, Tingyan, A Ming has this temperament. Please do not take offense. He then turned to me, saying, little you need not seek another partner for that project. The Su family would be quite suitable. Tingyan, our Jiang family will concede 70% of the profits as compensation for the injury A Ming inflicted on an N. Naturally, Su Tingyan graciously accepted the offer. Since severing ties with the Jiang family, the Su family had plummeted from grace, teetering on the brink of collapse. Who would have thought that with a mere omega, they could rekindle a connection with the flourishing Jiang family? Once the guests departed, silence enveloped the living room. I found myself lacking the inclination to engage in pretense and directly inquired, Mr. Jiang, why do you believe Su Ruyan can succeed? The old master scoffed, if he cannot, then no one in this world can save Jiang Ming. After all, he was the one whose pheromones were perfectly aligned with Jiang Ming's destiny. But that day, Jiang Ming, I hesitated, but the old master understood. He gestured to the steward standing nearby, who produced a phone and played a video for me. The footage displayed the private booth from that day at the bar. Initially, Jiang Ming did not push Su Ruyan away. He allowed him to draw near, embracing him and planting a kiss along his neck. The video abruptly ended there, though the outcome had still been a failure. Compared to other Omegas who could not even approach Jiang Ming, Su Ruyan had already made significant progress. No one could resist the bond of a destined counterpart. It was only a matter of time before Jiang Ming would relent. Observing my dazed expression as I replayed the video, Old Master Jiang reminded me, suppress that ridiculous jealousy of yours. Nothing is more important than A Ming's life. Even if A Ming does not speak of it, you cannot pretend to be unaware. He must visit the hospital weekly. His attending physician has stated that the pheromones accumulating within him have reached a dangerously high level. A wave of agitation surged within me unexpectedly. I instinctively reached for my cigarette case, only to meet the old man's icy glare, forcing me to return it to my pocket. After a moment of silence, he set down his teacup, gazing at me and asked, little you, is A Ming's sensitive period approaching? Realizing the implications of Old Master Jiang's inquiry, I felt my entire being stiffen. Jiang Ming and the old master were at odds. Disregarding Jiang Ming's wishes, the old master reclaimed control of the company, assigning several projects to the Su family. Jiang Ming, infuriated, declared his resignation. He spent the following days at home, eating and sleeping excessively, classic signs of an impending sensitive period. Jiang Ming was aware of this himself, having already asked me to prepare his belongings in advance. During the sensitive period, alphas lack autonomy. They become ferocious, exhibiting destructive tendencies, akin to beasts in heat, solely focused on marking their omegas. Thus, every alpha without an omega partner secretly constructs a sanctuary to endure their sensitive period. Although Jiang Ming was married to me, he still isolated himself in the sanctuary due to my status as a beta. On the night before his departure, Jiang Ming clung to me for an extended time, his feverish body pressed against mine. Yet, I felt an inexplicable chill deep within, impossible to warm. In a haze of confusion, I held him close, not knowing what prompted me to cup his face and whisper, "A Ming, could you please not leave?" Jiang Ming raised an eyebrow in suspicion. "I can help you through your sensitive period. I truly can." The dosage for his nape had been increased, yet it still struggled to suppress the gland hidden beneath the scar. The pheromones clamored vehemently, yet they could not find an outlet. I imagined I must have looked quite disheveled. My eyelids, crimson and glistening with unshed tears, rendered Jiang Ming's face indistinct. From the very beginning, I had known that my relationship with Jiang Ming was but an ephemeral illusion, destined for separation. Yet, as the day arrived, I found myself unexpectedly reluctant to part. Perhaps my pitiful demeanor softened Jiang Ming's resolve. He paused his actions, embraced me, and murmured, "Be good. Don't be foolish. You're just a beta. How could you endure an alpha in his sensitive period? Wait for me to return." I cast my gaze toward the drawer beneath the wardrobe, where lay the divorce agreement I had signed. "I'm sorry, Jiang Ming. I cannot wait for your return." After Jiang Ming left, I placed the divorce agreement in a conspicuous spot. I packed my meager belongings and moved out. I found a small hotel that did not require identification to hide away. I knew the location of Jiang Ming's sanctuary, shared only with his most trusted confidants, and me. It wasn't he that he willingly disclosed it. Rather, during his sensitive periods when he was utterly consumed, he would call me, revealing an address and pleading for me to come. He would whine, weep, and employ every means at his disposal. He was a stark contrast to his usual self. I had mentioned this matter to Jiang Ming before, but perhaps my overly gentle demeanor led him to dismiss it. He could never have imagined that even a seemingly innocuous rabbit like me could possess sharp fangs. I would one day have the audacity to stab him in the back. I have already divulged the location of the safe house to Old Master Jiang. By the time Jiang Ming arrives, Su Ruian should have been hidden away within its confines. The safe house is constructed from special materials. Once an alpha enters and locks the door, those inside cannot exit, nor can anyone from the outside gain entry. When Jiang Ming enters his sensitive period, he will be met with the overwhelming allure of a perfectly compatible pheromone, compelling him against his will. However, when Jiang Ming regains consciousness, I fear I shall be the first to suffer the consequences. I lay dormant in a modest inn for half a month, awaiting news of the Su family's bankruptcy. I informed Old Master Jiang of the safe house's location in exchange for insights into why Jiang Ming harbors such disdain for omegas. It turns out that Jiang Ming's father eloped with a highly compatible omega, leaving Jiang Ming's mother, an omega herself, to descend into madness, tormenting her son daily. This was a closely guarded secret of the Jiang family. The outside world was only aware that Jiang Ming was orphaned at a young age and raised by Old Master Jiang. Were it not for desperation, the old man would never have confided such truths to me. The reason Jiang Ming cannot forgive Su Tingyan's betrayal is rooted in this history. Su Tingyan was led astray by Jiang Ming's omega wife, betraying him for paltry gains. I know Jiang Ming's temperament all too well. He is one who never forgets a slight. His restraint towards Su Tingyan is merely a reflection of their long-standing bond. Did Su Tingyan truly believe that by clinging to an omega, he could resurrect the Su family? Little did he know, this was yet another betrayal against Jiang Ming, a path to self-destruction. Had he acted differently, perhaps the Su family could have survived a little longer. I spent 3 days lurking at the airport until I finally spotted Su Tingyan, accompanied by his omega wife, Jiang Lishu, as they prepared to flee abroad. The Su family had once wielded immense power, making numerous enemies along the way. Now, in their fall from grace, all their sordid dealings have come to light, leaving them in debt and universally reviled. I merely disclosed Su Tingyan's whereabouts to those creditors. Not only did he fail to escape, but he was also beaten to a pulp. In the dimly lit alley, Su Tingyan lay gasping for breath, yet he still cradled his omega wife protectively. The sight filled me with a sense of revulsion, but I approached nonetheless, clapping mockingly for Su Tingyan. Mr. Su and his wife truly share a deep bond. Su Tingyan looked up, his teeth gritted, and spat. "Are you here to gloat over my misfortune?" "Not at all," I replied, shaking my head innocently. "Mr. Su, you seem to misjudge me. I am here to assist you." I produced a card from my pocket and addressed Jiang Lishu, who was nestled in Su Tingyan's arms. "This card contains 1 million. Will you choose money or this worthless man who cannot even protect himself?" Clearly, times had been tough, for the pampered omega hesitated not a moment before reaching for the card. I stepped on his delicate hand, and amidst his piercing screams, I could no longer contain my outrage. Is this pathetic creature worth abandoning your wife and children for? Is it simply because he is your destined partner? Su Tingyan's pupils dilated. "Who are you?" I grasped his face, compelling him to meet my gaze. "Look closely into my eyes. Do they not seem familiar? Do they not remind you of someone?" The memory of Shun Sui surfaced, Su Tingyan's former wife, the abandoned omega, and the only brother of the Shin family who ever showed me kindness. Su Tingyan and Shin Sui were united through a marriage of convenience. Initially, he treated her well, and they had a son together living a seemingly happy life. However, everything changed with the arrival of Zhang Lishu, Su Tingyan's destined partner. In matters concerning Zhang Lishu, Su Tingyan became like a moth drawn to a flame, disregarding all else. It was due to a kidnapping orchestrated by Zhang Lishu that Su Tingyan sought to annihilate the Shin family. After the Shin family fell, Su Tingyan allowed Zhang Lishu to humiliate Shin Sui and her son mercilessly, leading them to a tragic end. At that time, I was studying in a distant city, and by the time I returned, it was far too late. After my mother's death, the Shin family disdained me as a worthless omega, refusing to acknowledge me. It was Shin Sui who took me in, nurturing me into adulthood. The predatory den that was the Shin family had crumbled. But what wrong had Shin Sui committed? With their bodies still warm, Su Tingyan was already reveling in new marital bliss. How could someone as virtuous as Shin Sui, my dear brother, deserve such a fate? Su Tingyan's eyes blazed with fury. I did not intend for Shin Sui to die. I had no idea Zhang Lishu was responsible for their demise. Had I known, I would never have allowed it. After all, they were my wife and child. His feigned sorrow was repugnant. In the distance, the wail of police sirens pierced the air. I waved the card in my hand, addressing Zhang Lishu with a hint of regret. Mrs. Su, I apologize, but I seem to have forgotten that money holds no value in prison. Over the years, I had amassed a considerable amount of evidence against Zhang Lishu for her treachery towards Shin Sui. Frankly, the foolish actions of Zhang Lishu were hardly subtle. There was a plethora of incriminating evidence. A man as astute as Su Tingyan could not possibly remain oblivious. With this thought, my patience suddenly resurfaced. Mr. Su, there is one more thing I must mention. Have you ever contemplated how Jiang Ming discovered your clandestine dealings with Zhang Lishu's uncle so swiftly, despite your efforts to conceal them? Before he could respond, I chuckled. It was I who revealed it. At this point, everything should be clear. I had disguised myself as a beta to draw close to Jiang Ming, all in pursuit of this blood feud. Emerging from the alley, I lit a cigarette, feeling little satisfaction in the revenge I had wrought. The weight of hatred had lifted from my shoulders, yet I felt utterly drained. Su Tingyan's furious roar echoed in my ears. Eugene, do not revel in your triumph. Do you believe you are using me? Jiang Ming will not spare you. Since I dared to bring matters to this juncture, I never anticipated I could deceive Jiang Ming. However, I had not located Su Ruan. Had he and the irrational Jiang Ming truly taken that final step? It was highly likely that a lifelong bond had already been forged. I had investigated. The Shin family's downfall bore no connection to Su Ruan. If Jiang Ming wished, sparing him was not out of the question. Battling against the biting wind, I found myself uncertain of my own emotions. The following day, while I stepped out for a meal, I returned to find my dilapidated inn surrounded by a throng of imposing bodyguards. Among them, I immediately spotted Jiang Ming, standing out like a crane among a flock of chickens. Draped in a deep gray coat, he leaned against the lead Porsche, his face shrouded in shadows as he listened to his subordinates report incessantly. Beneath the sporadic flickers of a lighter, his countenance was terrifyingly grim. After a prolonged silence, he coldly chuckled, his tone laden with suppressed fury. Since the items are in place, the person cannot have strayed far. Find him for me. Search every inch until you uncover his whereabouts. My heart sank. I felt my pulse quicken. In my recollection, even when enraged, Jiang Ming's upbringing as a privileged heir typically restrained him to a degree. I have never witnessed him in such a state. Merely standing there, he exudes the aura of a cruel, bloodthirsty deity. The reality is far worse than I had anticipated. In recent days, I have refrained from using medication to suppress my glands, and the small hotel room is saturated with the scent of my pheromones. Moreover, on the table lies my unfinished supply of omega inhibitors. Since he has found this place, it is likely that the room has been searched as well. This means Jiang Ming not only knows that it was I who informed Old Master Jiang of the location of his safe house, but he is also aware that I am an omega, and all along, he has been manipulated by one. It remains uncertain whether he has deduced that my approach towards him was to exploit him in order to bring down the Su family. However, based on these two charges alone, I have enough to face death multiple times over. With this thought, I cannot concern myself with the luggage in the room. Seizing the opportunity before Jiang Ming discovers me, I slip down the narrow path into the alley. Since being diagnosed with pheromone disorder syndrome, Jiang Ming's sensitivity periods have become increasingly unbearable. The inhibitors offer him no respite whatsoever. The accumulation of pheromones, mingled with unquenched desires, ultimately manifests as overwhelming destructive force. Each time Jiang Ming awakens from his torment, The furniture in the safe house lies in ruins, not a single piece remaining intact. Even the specially constructed walls bear numerous dents and irregularities. When Eugene proposed to assist him through his sensitivity period, Jiang Ming had to admit that he nearly succumbed to the temptation to accept. After all, during each sensitivity phase, his thoughts are consumed by Eugene. He yearns to embrace him from behind, to bite his neck, something he had considered during their past encounters. Yet Eugene always made excuses, claiming his neck bore scars, preventing him from succumbing to such desires. He fantasizes about locking Eugene away, ensuring that there would be no room for refusal, to act upon his every whim. He longs to see him cry, but now is not the time. His pheromone levels are already elevated, and coupled with the disorder, they have become even more uncontrollable. This is far beyond what a mere beta like Eugene could endure. Eugene would perish. However, relief is on the horizon. The specialized medication developed by the hospital he has invested in is nearing fruition. Once his pheromones are effectively suppressed, Eugene will accompany him through every sensitivity period henceforth. Unbeknownst to him, Eugene has quietly claimed his entire heart. He cannot fathom the allure possessed by such an ordinary beta. His acquaintance with Eugene began when Eugene rear-ended his vehicle. At that time, Su Tingyen, seated in the passenger seat without a seatbelt, was thrown against the windshield. Upon exiting the car, she unleashed a torrent of curses upon Eugene. Yet Eugene seemed unfazed, merely inquiring whether Jiang Ming preferred to report the incident to the authorities or settle it privately. After a brief pause, without waiting for Jiang Ming's response, he added, "Let us settle it privately. I'm in a hurry." He then retrieved his WeChat code, explaining, "Let us connect on WeChat for future compensation." At that moment, Jiang Ming grasped the intention behind Eugene's approach. This was hardly surprising. Throughout his life, he had always been the center of attention. Jiang Ming scrutinized Eugene from head to toe, tall and slender, with fair skin, and even while flirting, he carried an air of cool detachment. Yet, the flush on his ears betrayed his calm facade. Judging by his appearance, he was precisely Jiang Ming's type. Thus, he inquired, "Are you a beta?" Eugene nodded, and Jiang Ming readily added him on WeChat. Subsequently, Eugene invited him out several times, and from Eugene's demeanor, Jiang Ming concluded that he was too innocent to be a suitable partner for casual play. Consequently, Jiang Ming took the initiative to cut off contact. To his astonishment, Eugene persisted, even entering his company in pursuit of him. Jiang Ming reviewed his resume. A graduate student with internship experience at a prestigious firm, his impressive achievements revealed him to be quite capable. They traveled together for work, with Eugene bringing him an umbrella on rainy days and celebrating his birthday. Jiang Ming was not one to remain indifferent, and as their interactions continued, they gradually grew closer. Eugene was genuinely innocent. Despite feeling utterly embarrassed, he would hold Jiang Ming's hand, embrace him, and kiss him, clumsily attempting to entice him without considering the consequences. Choosing to marry Eugene was indeed a decision born out of the Jiang family's insistence on an Omega union, pushing him to the brink. However, Jiang Ming had contemplated this. Had he been with any of the betas he had previously dated, he would have felt repulsed. Those betas sought either wealth or power. Yet, Eugene was different. He sought only Jiang Ming himself. He never demanded anything from him, even using his own salary to buy him gifts. Even regarding their marriage, Eugene asked for nothing, signing a prenuptial agreement that relinquished any claim to Jiang Ming's assets. At that moment, Jiang Ming marveled at Eugene's obedience, fearing that if they ever parted ways, he might fall victim to unscrupulous individuals. When friends suggested he was merely playing with Eugene, Jiang Ming noticed Eugene standing quietly, listening. Seeing Eugene's lack of reaction only served to ignite his frustration, until, at the moment of departure, Eugene entwined his fingers with Jiang Ming's, soothing him with, "It's okay. Just being here beside you is enough for me." In that instant, his heart raced like a drum, each beat resonating painfully. Jiang Ming found himself unable to remain angry, only feeling guilt and heartache. Eugene's affection for him was so profound, so humble, that he was willing to sacrifice his dignity. Perhaps it was time to relent. He could agree to spend a lifetime with Eugene. Yet, Jiang Ming never imagined that Eugene had been deceiving him all along. During a sensitivity period, Su Ruyan appeared in his safe house. In a desperate bid to retain his sanity, he resorted to slicing his arms with shards of a teacup. He screamed for Su Ruyan to leave. The petite Omega, knocked to the ground and unable to rise, seemed to perceive his innermost thoughts, taunting him, "Ming-gu, you can't still be thinking about that beta, can you? Do you know why I'm here? You can thank Eugene. All it took was a little money from Grandpa, and he revealed everything." Ming-gu, Tell me, what could that despicable beta possibly offer you? Jiang Ming felt his rage ignite. Shut up. How dare Su Ruyan slander Eugene? How dare he defame someone who cherished him so deeply? Jiang Ming believed not a single word. When he regained his composure, he realized the shards in his hand had pierced Su Ruyan's glands. Blood poured forth in torrents, and with a scream, the Omega collapsed, utterly still. Jiang Ming merely wiped the blood that had accidentally spattered on his hands with a tissue. God knows how he endured until the sensitivity period concluded. Subsequently, this particular episode became a haunting nightmare he dreaded to recall. Without tending to his wounds, Jiang Ming rushed home, only to be met not with Eugene's explanation, but rather with a divorce agreement bearing Eugene's signature. Unable to locate Eugene, Jiang Ming unleashed his fury upon the Su family. Within a few days, the Su family was ostracized from high society. Before finding Eugene, Jiang Ming received news that Zhang Lishu, Su Tingyan's wife, had been imprisoned, with Eugene being the very cause of her downfall. From Zhang Lishu, Jiang Ming learned that Eugene was indeed Shen Sui's brother. He approached him not out of any so-called affection, but merely to exploit him for revenge against Shen Sui. Jiang Ming, filled with rage, could only laugh bitterly. He truly did not comprehend how Eugene could continue to stab at his heart. It was then, in the small inn where Eugene was staying, that he was enveloped by a wave of pheromones. The scent of rosemary, identical to the perfume Eugene used. Even Eugene's identity as a beta was a facade. At that moment, the phone rang. Jiang Ming answered. It was the professor he had hired at great expense to develop a suppressant for pheromones. Mr. Jiang, the suppressant has been successfully developed. Would you care to come by? No need, Jiang Ming replied coldly. I no longer require it. Jiang Ming eventually found me. I, devoid of any money, was unsure how long I had wandered before stopping in front of a small restaurant, drawn by a job advertisement. That day, I was busy in the restaurant. My mind was a haze. The gland with the suppressant patch was uncomfortable, swollen and painful, and the side effects of years of over-medication surged upon me. A figure stood before me. Holding the menu, I instinctively asked what they would like to order. Raising my gaze, I was met with Jiang Ming's eyes. He looked at me with a smile that was neither here nor there. Not ordering. I'm looking for someone. For a moment, I couldn't discern whether I was hallucinating. Aren't you going to say something? His tone was icy, as though it were laced with shards of ice. His gaze fell upon the suppressant patch on the back of my neck, and for some reason, the smile faded from his lips. Suddenly, I regained my senses and turned to flee. Jiang Ming did not chase after me. He remained rooted in place, his obscure gaze fixed upon me, sending chills down my spine. I dared not look back. On the street, I was surrounded by a multitude of alphas, their predatory eyes fixed upon me. Initially, I was at a loss. It wasn't until I caught a whiff of the potent pheromones emanating from my own body that the reality struck me. A few alphas were already stirred into action. Without a moment's hesitation, I turned and ran back. What a farce. I would rather face dismemberment at Jiang Ming's hands than be caught by this group of alphas whose rationality had been severely compromised by my pheromones. As I reached Jiang Ming, I couldn't halt my momentum and collided directly into his embrace. In that instant, I felt my bones turn to jelly. Jiang Ming remained motionless for a long while. Finally, as I regained my composure, I dared to look up to assess the situation, only to find myself pinned against the wall. In the next moment, the suppressant patch on my neck was torn away, sharp fangs piercing my skin. A torrent of overwhelming alpha pheromones surged into my body. I instinctively resisted, but was pressed even tighter. It was too much. It felt as though this pheromone sought to invade every inch of my skin. Unable to endure any longer, I lost consciousness. When I regained awareness, I found myself in the villa where Jiang Ming lived post-marriage. My neck throbbed with pain. I glanced in the mirror and was horrified to see numerous bite marks covering my gland. The count of Jiang Ming's bites was beyond reckoning. Just as I was reeling from the shock, I heard a commotion outside. Jiang Ming entered wearing casual home attire. Come down for dinner when you've awakened, he said, his tone surprisingly calm. I had a multitude of questions for him, yet I hesitated to speak, fearing that any misstep might provoke his ire. After all, I felt guilty for my past actions towards him. So much so that I missed the opportunity to speak even as he finished his meal and left. I pursued him outside, only to be halted by a bodyguard at the door. I could only watch helplessly as Jiang Ming entered his car and drove away without so much as a glance in my direction. For several consecutive days, Jiang Ming did not return. Only the servants came and went, storing something in the refrigerator. Upon opening it, I was met with a wave of darkness. It was filled with items necessary for an alpha's heat period. A ludicrous and terrifying hypothesis took root in my mind, one I scarcely dared to contemplate. Finally, a week later, I saw Jiang Ming again. This time, I resolved not to miss the opportunity. I boldly approached him and said, "Jiang Ming, can we talk?" At the sound of my voice, Jiang Ming scoffed, setting down his suit and returning to the sofa, gesturing for me to continue. I bit my lip, contemplating my words. "Jiang Ming, I am sorry. If it would appease you, I would willingly sacrifice my life, but what does it mean to keep me here?" Jiang Ming's cold laughter echoed. "You wish for a swift end to your vendetta?" He pulled me down onto the sofa, leaning close to my ear and said menacingly, "Let me make this clear. There is no way out. My heat period is imminent. Prepare yourself and consume nutritious food, lest you be unable to endure it." I was in disbelief. My suspicions had indeed been correct. "Jiang Ming, look closely. I am an Omega, the very type you despise and would never touch in this lifetime." Jiang Ming laughed indifferently. "My principle of not touching Omegas has long been shattered. Has it not been you who broke it?" Panic seized me, and I blurted out, "You should seek Su Ruyan. He is your destined mate, far more suitable." Those words seemed to strike a nerve with Jiang Ming, his expression darkening. "Is that what you wish for me to pursue someone else?" His grip on my wrist tightened painfully, his lips pressing against my gland. I had no doubt that if he continued to bite, my gland would surely be ruined. I realized he was furious with me for revealing the location of the safe house to old Jiang. Thus, I tried to soothe him. Ming, I only considered you. The doctor said that if you do not find an Omega to mark soon, your pheromones will reach critical levels, endangering your life." This was the truth. I never wished for Jiang Ming to die. I only wanted him to be safe. Jiang Ming, however, did not believe me. "Aren't you an Omega?" The scent of his rich cuckoo pheromones grew stronger, and in a moment of despair, I pleaded, "I can't, Jiang Ming, I truly can't. Please don't do this. I'm a substandard Omega." When pleas proved futile, I resorted to threats. "Jiang Ming, forcing an Omega is a criminal offense. We are married. You have a duty to accompany me through my heat." I retorted, "We are already divorced. I have not signed anything." Those words extinguished the last flicker of hope within me. Jiang Ming leaned closer to my gland, inhaling deeply, and remarked, "Your pheromones are far more pleasant than any perfume." Late at night, I hid in a cabinet, too afraid to breathe. The light seeped through the narrow crack, illuminating the myriad of bruises covering my body. Footsteps echoed outside, followed by Jiang Ming's hoarse voice. "Darling, be a good boy, come out. If you don't come out, there will be consequences when I find you." My heart sank to the depths of despair as I silently prayed not to be discovered. Suddenly, the cabinet door swung open, blinding light poured in, and I could see nothing. All I heard was Jiang Ming's chilling laughter. "Found you." Tears streamed down my cheeks uncontrollably. Yet I dared not beg for mercy, knowing such pleas would only incite him further. In this world, nothing was more terrifying than an alpha's heat period. It was already the 4th day, and I felt as though I would be driven to madness by Jiang Ming's torment. Once Jiang Ming's heat period concluded, I was sent to the hospital. The doctors and nurses were reluctant to come near me due to the overwhelming scent of S-grade alpha pheromones that clung to me. After recuperating for more than half a month, I finally began to recover. Jiang Ming, noticing my lack of intent to flee, seemed to relax slightly. On the day of my discharge, a person claiming to be Jiang Ming's subordinate came to collect me. Cloaked in a mask and hat, he was thoroughly concealed. Yet, I recognized him instantly. Su Tingyan. I had initially retained him, believing that death would be too lenient a fate for him. The once exalted young Master Su, now reduced to floundering in the mire, was a spectacle of poetic justice. However, it appeared that it would be wiser to eliminate this menace. I did not expose him. Instead, I discreetly concealed the fruit knife from the table within my sleeve while he was distracted. Subsequently, I followed him out of the hospital and into the car. Seated in the back, I gripped the knife tightly, poised to act, when Su Tingyan abruptly accelerated, increasing our speed. It was then that I noticed several vehicles tailing us. For reasons unbeknownst to me, I inexplicably hid the knife back in my sleeve. Once we reached a desolate area, Su Tingyan was finally forced to stop. Cursing under his breath, he dropped the pretense, pressing the knife against my throat as he exited the vehicle. Upon spotting Jiang Ming approaching from the front, Su Tingyan sneered. "Jiang Ming, when did you grow so fond of debasement? You care for him so much, yet he was the cause of your downfall, leading to the destruction of the Su family and the mutilation of my brother. But what does he care for you?" he continued. "He is as cold-hearted as they come, harboring no affection for you whatsoever." Jiang Ming's dark eyes were fixed on me as he gritted his teeth, demanding, "Let him go. What are your terms?" At this, Su Tingyan laughed even louder. "Fine, I want you to bury the Su family with me." To my astonishment, Jiang Ming actually acquiesced, retrieving a knife from his subordinate, intent on plunging it into himself. Seeing this, Su Tingyan froze, and in that moment of distraction, I thrust the knife directly into his hand. The pain caused him to loosen his grip, allowing me to break free. Jiang Ming, quick to react, pulled me close while intercepting Su Tingyan's knife with his own hand. Chaos erupted around us, but it soon subsided as Jiang Ming's bodyguards subdued Su Tingyan. My gaze, however, was fixated solely on the blood dripping from Jiang Ming's hand. After escorting me home, Jiang Ming went to the hospital. The wound on his hand was deep and required stitches. He returned the following day while I was having breakfast, placing the surveillance footage from the hospital room before me. It clearly showed me hiding the fruit knife, implying I was aware of the impending threat. Jiang Ming inquired, "Since you knew, why did you still go with him?" I lowered my head, feigning surprise. "I forgot about the surveillance," I responded. "I was planning to turn the tables and solidify Su Tingyan's guilt for kidnapping me." My tone lacked sincerity. Jiang Ming furrowed his brow. "Do you realize how close you came to losing your life?" I was aware, but I remained indifferent. Initially, I had thought that even dying alongside Su Tingyan would be acceptable. After all, my life was worthless. I had avenged myself and had no further attachments. If I were to die, Jiang Ming would be free of burdens. Wasn't that a favorable outcome? But my perspective shifted, specifically when Jiang Ming pursued us, and through the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of the worry etched across his face. I suddenly altered my viewpoint. I had believed Jiang Ming harbored hatred towards me, yet it seemed that was not the case. I fixed my gaze on his bandaged left hand, responding to his earlier statement, Ming, Su Tingyan was mistaken. We are not mere objects devoid of feelings. I am not cold-hearted." That day, when Director Jiang showed me the footage from the bar's VIP room, witnessing you kiss Su Ruan truly pained me. Jiang Ming paused, then awkwardly replied, "Are you unable to discern such a simple matter? It was not a kiss." I stepped closer to him. "I did manipulate you. I did deceive you, but my feelings for you are genuine." The emotions I had long concealed began to surface, finally glimpsing the light of day. Jiang Ming no longer needed to respond. He had already conveyed his feelings long ago. Back then, he had asked me, "Do you know the scent of my pheromones?" It was that of the azalea. The language of the azalea signifies, "I belong solely to you." The end of the narrative has arrived. I express my gratitude for your attentive listening. Until we meet again in the next story.